What happened?
Hello. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing fine. I'm just wondering what happened. All of a sudden, our intro went out.
Live TV.
Our intro just stopped, and I don't know what the heck happened here. So anyway, let's bring everybody on board. Hi, I'm Nick Palavita. Welcome to the media show. Media show, of course, just went south, and I can't even tell you why. So let's bring in some of our guests. First of all, we'll bring in one of the co-founders of the IBM TV network. Let's bring in Kim Calhoun. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick.
Somehow that intro just like stopped on me.
As Rex said, welcome to live.
What the heck happened? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, let's go to California and we'll bring in a former writer for Jimmy Kimmel Live. Let's bring in Rick Rosner. Rick, welcome to the show.
Hey.
Maybe he can tell me what happened. I don't know. You know. And then our program director at the IBM TV network also has his own show, The Online Dinner Party. Let's bring in, assuming he's available, Mark Lee. Mark, welcome.
I'm available. Like I said, as everybody has said, programming and all of that stuff, sometimes it just does mysterious things. So as a friend of mine calls it when he does his event, which is one of our expos, reality TV at its best.
Reality TV at its best. Okay, with that, we're going to bring in a person who brings us a new show. Let's bring in Rex Lee to discuss his new show. Rex, welcome to the program.
Hey, Nick. How you doing?
Okay. Since you haven't been on for a while, you're going to have to tell our audience a little about who you are, where you're from, what you do, and, of course, what you're doing. So we're going to give you the floor, Rex.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. My name is Rex M. Lee, and I'm a privacy and cybersecurity advisor and a tech journalist. I've written numerous articles for various publications, mainly industry trade rags like Mission Critical Communications Magazine, which is centered on the defense industry and critical infrastructure, as well as I've written numerous articles for the Epoch Times out of New York, the Vision Times out of Australia, and other publications around the globe. And I'm one of the former producers for Pod TV when it was IBM TV, and produced a show called Cyber Talk TV, which was centered on mainly tech topics, but we covered a lot of other broad topics associated with tech, not just about devices or anything like that. And we covered topics both centered on cybersecurity as well as technology in general. We also covered very interesting we also covered very interesting subject matters such as hybrid warfare and tech-based hybrid warfare, unrestricted hybrid warfare waged by our adversaries and so forth. So we cover a broad range of topics. I'm going to be developing new content starting in September associated with Tech Talk Summits out of Boston. And I'm also going to be speaking at Tech Talk Summit events, covering the same topics that I cover at existing trade shows that I speak at today, as well as covering topics that I write about and some of the topics that we covered on Cyber Talk TV. So we're really excited about producing new content. Again, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to keep Cyber Talk TV. That's still in negotiations, but we're looking to produce new content starting in September.
Starting in September, are you going to be producing new content based on this $250 billion bill that's going to the tech industry?
Well, are you talking about the chip bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some are calling it corporate welfare. I don't know what's in the bill. Oh, go ahead.
Are you getting a piece of it, Rex?
No, none. Okay. I can write about it, but we don't get it. We don't get it. You bring up an interesting subject matter there in terms of who's going to get this money. As some people may be aware, by profession, I work within the tech industry. So I work within enterprise application and platform development for Carnegie Technologies out of Austin. And we've been developing enterprise platforms for the telecommunications industry dating back to 2005. We developed platforms and apps that have been adopted by Cricket, which is now owned by AT&T, T-Mobile, as well as Metro PCS, Verizon, and other wireless carriers, including global carriers that people may not have ever heard of. So when I talk about or write about these subject matters regarding applications, technology, mainly covering any device like a smartphone, tablet, PC, or connected product supported by the Android OS, Apple iOS, or Microsoft Windows 8, 10, or 11 OS. When I talk about these subject matters, I'm talking about it from professional experience. So I'm really giving the audience an insider's view of how this technology works, how apps and platforms are developed, and also what the vulnerabilities are within the apps and platforms that also pose cybersecurity threats and privacy threats to end users.
Mhm.
Speaking of which, Nick, one of the other shows, and I just sent her an invitation. I'll see if she actually is able to make it because she'll be coming from the DMV area. That's, that whole DC, Virginia area. But another area that a lot of people have been paying attention to, and I'm sure Rex is even aware of it as well, is the metaverse. And starting tomorrow, Nicole Maxwell, and that's the young lady I was referring to, will be starting her show here on the network as well. And it is called the Meta Mind Shift. I'm trying to find that particular article that she sent me, but Meta Mind Shift Show by Nicole Maxwell. So she'll be spending a lot of time analyzing this other wonderful thing that is going on in technology, which is this whole notion of the metaverse, which of course involves AR, VR, and a number of other things in that space, in which a lot of people are somewhat excited about, because it also involves blockchain technology, which we know is very much behind crypto and some of the things in that space as well. But she is a consultant in that field, has been in that field for a while, and we are glad to have her show coming our way tomorrow evening at 6:00. That will be her premiere episode. And like I said, I just sent her an invitation to this show, so hopefully she will come on if she gets a chance and pops in. But I do know that she is oftentimes very busy in that whole metaverse space and all of that. But she is very excited about coming in and sharing with us what the metaverse is all about.
Yeah, Rex, you also talk about privacy. How does the tech industry affect our privacy, and why should we even be concerned?
Well, I've covered a lot of privacy and cybersecurity threats associated with intrusive and addictive apps and platforms. These are subject matters I've been covering literally dating back to 2016. If you go back to if you go to my author page at the Epoch Times, if you look up Rex M. Lee or Google Rex M. Lee, Epoch Times, EPOCH Times, you'll see the articles that I've written. I've been writing about these threats dating back, again, 4 or 5 years, 6 years ago. And mainly what people don't understand is that apps are basically legal malware. They enable the developer to surveil and data mine the end user for profit at the expense of the end user's privacy. It's not that we've lost our privacy, which is bad enough. It's the fact that most people who use apps and or social media platforms are being exploited for financial gain at the expense of their privacy. So it gets much worse when you think about it, because now it's happening on products and services that we're paying for. It used to be you got a free web browser or a free social media account when you traded your personal information, and only when you were using those products were you surveilled and data mined. But when these intrusive apps and products proliferated to mobile devices such as smartphones, that enabled the developers to start surveilling and data mining the end user for financial gain 24/7, 365 days a year, even when you're not on the app or the platform that's conducting the surveillance and data mining on their end users, such as Facebook, which is developed by Meta, as well as ByteDance's highly intrusive social media platform TikTok, which is developed by a company from China, again, ByteDance, and so forth. So there's a lot of privacy and cybersecurity threats associated with these apps and these platforms. And one more note that I'd like to leave with you all is the fact that a single app can enable the developer to conduct audio, video, and physical surveillance on the end user 24/7, 365 days a year, while enabling the developer to collect over 5,000 highly confidential data points associated with the end user's personal, business, medical, legal, and employment information. Pretty much everything you do on your smartphone and or tablet PC or the host device that these apps are supporting, such as a PC or even a smart TV or a connected vehicle. These apps are collecting that amount of information on the end user, and a lot of people, they don't realize how much is being collected on.
Rex,
Can I ask you
real
a question
quick,
about that, Rex?
say what day and time your show is again, and what day you start.
Well, we haven't officially booked a date and time, but we're discussing right now, I think on Thursdays, but I'm not sure what time Mark.
That is correct. That would be Thursdays at 2 is the time that we're looking at right now and everything. So that would be right after the Wall Street Hacker, which is another one of our shows that'll be launched, I believe, this week or no later than next week, which is with Peter Bennett, and right before one of Chris Greco's shows, because he does two of those, Lead with Love, and then he also does the Data Show. So definitely is one of the shows that is around kind of like data analysis. So it's different than what you do, Rex, and all of that, but definitely more like I think one of the shows was dealing with avocado. So like looking at the figures and studying the figures and how they come around, those kind of things. So that's one of Chris's shows, because I know he did one on avocados and he did one on a number of other things that were in that data space as well. But
Can I ask you a quick question on privacy, Rex?
Sure.
And good to see you again. It's been a while since you and I have been on air.
You too, Shaq. Good to see you too, man.
One of the things that both you and the other gentleman that you referred to before brought my attention to, as well as I hope many of our audience members, was that it's not just apps, but when you actually buy a smartphone, the smartphone manufacturers will actually write into the code certain things that companies can actually pay them for. That gives them access to a type of information. I was actually having this conversation literally just in the last week. I was having this conversation and I thought, I've got to actually send you an email and ask you, but thankfully we're on a show together so I can ask you here. A lot of people talk about using a VPN. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, most people that use a VPN are not using it on their computer, right? They're using a VPN on their phone because most people access the internet these days from their phone, including me. I trade, so I do have a laptop, but most of the stuff that I do is from my phone or from my tablet. But if I understand things correctly, even if I have a VPN and I try to anonymize my IP so the websites that I visit don't know who I am, the apps that I'm using would still be able to actually
collect that data,
depending what they are, use access my microphone. I'm like what's his name from Facebook? I've got like a Band-Aid over my camera now. Because they can access all of that information, and even with a VPN, that doesn't help. So, what do you actually do? What is your suggestion?
See, that's a huge problem you just outlined. And most, like the California privacy law that just kicked in, as well as GDPR and so forth, these privacy laws in Europe and so forth, what they're covering is privacy associated when you access online services or social media platforms like Facebook or Google and so forth. What they don't cover and where everybody's missing the boat on this is the app itself. Again, I go back and I make this statement: apps are legal malware. When you accept the terms of use for an app, the app can circumvent any VPN or any type of cybersecurity that you have on your phone to gain access to your mic, your camera, as well as collect those 5,000 highly confidential data points. And when I talk about those data points, I'm talking about your calendar events, your text messages, your emails, your email attachments. Some apps have interactive application permission command strings granting 2 or more companies the ability to surveil the end user off of a single app. And I found this in a Samsung Galaxy Note in the 4.2 email app that integrates your corporate email or your private email addresses to the phone. It has nothing to do with Gmail, but Google allowed a company from China, Baidu, to collect and surveil the end user, collect information and surveil the end user through the 4.2 email app that supported the Android OS, that supported the Samsung Galaxy Note smartphone.
Rick would like to ask a question, but I'll just ask
Sure.
one on his behalf very quickly. If Rick wants to send me a joke for an upcoming blockbuster hit show that I'm going to make, how does he do so without using Morse code in a way that I'm actually going to get without other people being able to interfere? Because look, let's be honest, smartphones are great. The technology is awesome. I want to use banking. I want to use maps. How do I do so and keep myself protected? And how does Rick send me that joke for my show without everyone else knowing about it?
So when I speak at trade shows, I'm speaking at Techno Security and Digital Forensics in October, and I cover best practices when I explain how leaky these operating systems are, which include the Android OS, Apple iOS, and Microsoft Windows 8, 10, 11 OS, and plus the intrusive apps that support those OSs. The only solution today that's viable is to migrate to Apple. I'm not here to sell phones for Apple, and Apple will take their pound of flesh out of you in terms of what they surveil you on. But Apple has the best privacy settings today in the industry, and they've been increasing them over the last 2 or 3 years. So they have a new feature called App Tracker, where you can actually turn off the ability for third-party apps, including their pre-installed app partners apps that are pre-installed into the device, such as a Facebook app. You can actually stop those apps from tracking you and collecting that information. It spurred a lawsuit that Facebook is suing Apple for several billions of dollars because they're going to lose billions of dollars because of this feature. But Apple doesn't care anymore. They're looking out for the privacy of their end users, but it doesn't totally secure your smartphone, but they provide the highest level of security today. Regarding these third-party apps, including apps from China, such as WeChat, which is developed by Tencent, Android apps developed by Baidu, and TikTok developed by ByteDance.
I just assume that I have zero privacy. I assume that whatever I shop for online, whatever my wife and I talk about when we're near a phone, whatever naked pictures I look at, somebody there's an old saying that when you're playing poker, if you don't know who the sucker is, you're the sucker. Exactly. And there's a new saying that with apps and everything else, if you don't know what the product is, you're the product. You're the thing that's being mined.
Yeah, but it's worse than that, because the data mining, first of all, it should be illegal for any company to surveil and data mine someone 24/7, 365 days a year when they're not using your products or your services. That should be illegal. Secondly, these app and platform developers are, a lot of them, like Google, compete in over 200 industries worldwide. Yet governments around the world are letting them surveil people and data mine people by way of computers and telephones. No wonder these are the most powerful companies in the world. When you can surveil people by their telephones and their computers, you will be the most powerful companies in the world. So they're not only collecting consumer information, they're collecting business information. This is your business. If you work for a defense contractor and you're using these intrusive apps on your phone, you're exposing confidential and protected information to unauthorized third parties in regards to non-disclosure agreements that these defense contractors sign, as well as employment agreements that state that the employee can't expose confidential and protected information to unauthorized third parties. Nowhere in those legal agreements does it make an exception for Google, Apple, Microsoft, or their partners like Facebook, ByteDance, and all these other companies as well. Again, this is also true for medical information. There's all sorts of HIPAA violations going on by the collection of this data, because it's your medical data, as well as there's violations of client-attorney privilege. If you're sitting there with your attorney and he's got his tablet PC out, and that PC is allowing 4 or 5 or 50 companies to collect the data and including voice recordings during your conversation with your attorney, he's actually violating attorney-client privilege.
No, but hold on a second. But along those same lines, Rex, go ahead.
That's not quite correct on the attorney-client privilege thing, Rex. But just on what you were saying there, normally it does say knowingly violate, not just violate the privacy of company information. But let me ask you this question. I think this is an important one. If Peter, who's just joined us, a very, very smart guy, so I go up to Connecticut and say, Peter, you and I, we're going to set up a new search engine. We're going to set up our own Google, right? I'll be the face of it because I'm better looking than Peter, but Peter can be the brains, right? What happens then? What are we going to do if we can't monetize our product by surveilling people and creating ads that are targeted to our user base? How would we monetize our product? What would happen if you were to be able to wave a magic wand and stop Google and all the other big tech companies, Facebook, etc., from being able to do what they're doing, or to severely limit it, but just to eradicate it altogether? How are they going to make money? What would be the idea that you would have for them?
Well,
I think they would
I'm
have
going
to
to
make.
answer something really quick before Rex
Sure.
jumps in on this. First and foremost, I want to make an announcement because we are the media show, but I'm trying to pop in on the shows to do this. We are now live, not just on Roku, but on Amazon. Now, we are on an Amazon app, but we ourselves, we're not asking for money from you, and we're not asking for subscriptions, which collects a lot of your data. We're free, and we're available to anyone openly because we're not trying to collect your data and make money off of you or sell it off to other people or hack you or whatever. So just remember that we are Pod TV. If you want to find us on Roku, you find us live, Pod TV Live. But we take each individual show on Roku and we give them their own channel. So you can do Pod TV and the show name. You can find the show names on our website at podtv.tv. The Amazon app is really easy to load. If you have Amazon, you just load it into the show into your system. You just search for us Pod TV. I actually did it by voice. I just pulled it up on my TV and said, Pod TV, boom, it pulled up. Said, do you want to load it onto your list? I said, yes. And there we were live. So I'm just very excited about that because we're making progress here at our network. And we're trying to provide all of these great quality shows that are going to be talking about what are your rights, that we are utilizing what I consider some of the best journalistic ethics in the industry, because they're real people, real stories, and real information. And Rex, I speak and have spoken with Rex at some of these cybersecurity conventions. That's how we met. And so I'm thrilled that he's going to be doing the TV show. But I do want to add something very important since my telecom days. You've never had privacy. Get over it. If you don't want anyone to know about it, don't talk about it over the phone. Don't text it. Don't email it. And Nick is a lawyer, and he will say the same thing. No text.
But
Anything that you want anyone to know.
But you've never had this lack of privacy.
No. So
You've never had this lack of privacy, Kimberly. I mean, the idea that there was a case.
You've never had privacy.
Years where the I think she was 15 or 16 years old. The girl was pregnant, and her father got some sort of message for buying something to do with pregnancy stuff, and he made a complaint against the shop, and they said, "Oh look, we're really sorry. I don't know how that happened." Turned out that his 15 or 16-year-old daughter was pregnant, and they knew about it not only before the father knew about it, they knew about it before she knew about it. Right, because their algorithms had produced that. So, I mean, we've never had that kind of lack of privacy. And just very quickly to our viewers, I'm disappointed that Nick never told me that I couldn't hack the viewers. I was really looking forward to that.
Hey, and I had a quick question for Rex, and I know that.
Let me go back to Shaq's original question real quickly. If y'all started Google today, how would you make money in this industry? Well, if the law was written properly, people can opt in. I'm not against surveillance and data mining business models at all. I'm not against what Google does for a living or anything like that. It's how it's being done through these intrusive apps, and the fact that
if everyone opted out, Rex, if everyone opted out, they wouldn't be able to. The company wouldn't make any money. So
they could make money by paying people for their data, or paying for people's products and services, like giving you the smartphone free if you want to give them access to your data. They used to do that with their web browser, and their and social media platforms used to do that. People knew that once they signed up for the free products, that they weren't actually free. They were going to trade their personal information for that. And I think people are willing to do that. But what they're not offering today First of all, there's antitrust issues because the apps are all pre-installed from the companies that control access to the internet are Google, Apple, Microsoft, because they're the operating system developers. They're the gateway. And then they partner with companies like Amazon, Facebook, and ByteDance out of China and so forth. They all have one thing in common. They all control 80 or 90% of access to the internet, because nobody's really accessing the internet through a URL anymore. They go through an app, and they're the pre-installed apps on billions of devices. So it's hard for new companies to come in and compete against them when their apps are already pre-installed into billions of these devices. You said if you wanted to be another Google, well, they might allow you and say, yeah, we allow competition, but you got to go through their gateway to get your app in their app store. Right. And then you're in there with a million other apps that aren't pre-installed, and you're lost in the static. So your ability to compete against any of these companies is limited due to these pre-installed apps. If they want to fix antitrust, that's where they need to start looking at that aspect of it, is through the partnerships with the operating system developers, Google, Apple, and Microsoft, and the big tech giants who pay them billions of dollars to have that app pre-installed.
When they busted up Standard Oil, that didn't happen.
Yeah, but Rex didn't kill. Hold on a second.
You can't underestimate what you just said, Rex. Apple is being paid $8 to $12 billion a year by Facebook. So when you buy an Apple phone, Facebook is pre-installed.
Yeah, and also Google. A lot of people who don't like Google went to Apple, not realizing that Google pays Apple anywhere from $18 to $21 billion to be the default search engine for Safari.
Correct.
And they don't realize that they're doing business with Google on Apple, because Apple rebrands the titles of these products, and some of the pre-installed apps that are pre-installed into Apple phones aren't branded Google, but they're developed by Google. So if you get into the terms of use, you'll start to see who the manufacturers are and realize that it's an oligarch of companies that are controlling all of this. They all are on each other's boards. A lot of these executives are on each other's boards.
But that's the thing, Rex. If you try to change antitrust legislation, that's only going to be more smaller companies, but with the same people in charge of them. This is exactly what happened to Standard Oil. When Standard Oil came up, it was the same people owning the same company.
Isn't part of the problem, and I'd love to hear definitely my buddy Rick's idea of this as well, isn't part of the problem that so much of this is ingrained in our society? Like when I think about how many of us have not used some form of a app in order to exchange money, whether it's Zelle, whether it's Cash App, whether it's a number of others that people are using on a regular basis. And, I live in an apartment complex, and I can tell you that there are probably things that are installed in this apartment complex. And this is actually one of the lesser feels kind of apartment and everything. But if you're in a high field apartment, you probably got apps and all over your apartment, whether it's in the microwave, whether it's in the oven, whether it's in the refrigerator. I mean, some people have Alexis pre-programmed into some of their apartments and stuff of that nature. So it's already having this invasion already because of like some of the things that are so ingrained in our society that you literally are walking into this landmine and might not know that you're going into that landmine. Like I said,
exactly. Well, that's another issue, is you're forced to participate because you can't buy anything. And if you don't agree to the terms of use, which are basically cyber enslavement agreements that allow them to exploit you for profit by way of the products that you're paying for, if you don't agree to those terms of use, then you can't use your products. Right. You're basically, you really don't even own the product when you can't use it if you don't want to agree to a predatory set of terms of use that allows the developer or manufacturer to exploit the end user for profits. And these are products that we're paying for. This is no longer on free stuff. Your connected car isn't free. Your connected TV isn't free. Your connected appliances aren't free anymore. These companies have brokered manufacturers with just about every OEM in the country, original manufacturer. They've brokered deals with all of them to have their operating systems and their intrusive apps put on everything, where you can't even not participate. You can't even do your job because companies have internal apps that they develop that they use, that you have to use this technology for. And what's sad is there are millions of companies and millions of employees for other companies around the world that are actually in competition with these corporations inadvertently using their intrusive products, exposing their data, their company data, to their either existing or future business competitor. Or they may be acquired by these companies at some point, but these companies are able to surveil and data mine these employees. They get their employment information, their business information. Again, the data mining and surveillance is indiscriminate 24/7, 365 days a year. It's not written into the code that they can only surveil you and data mine you when you're using their products, and or surveil and data mine your consumer related information, but not your personal or medical or legal or employment information. They just grab everything.
No,
and that should be illegal. Frankly, that should be illegal for them to be able to surveil you 24/7, 365 days a year.
I know Rick's got a question. I definitely want to get to Rick's question, so I want to get Rick's question. But right after Rick's question, we also do have another show that will actually be premiering this week, because I've already know that date is set up and everything. So we do want to hear about the Wall Street hacker and what Peter's got in mind for that. I hope he's going to give me some good advice, because I've not been doing good in my financial investments and all of that. So I need some good advice from him and Shaquille and others. So hopefully we'll have that conversation as well. But Rick, your question, and then I do want to hear from Peter as well.
All this stuff is more insidious than just a loss of privacy. Once all these big tech companies can model and predict your thinking and behavior, they can shape your thinking and behavior.
So you just touched on another issue, and I can't believe that Google and Facebook, Meta, haven't been investigated after admissions from Sean Parker, the co-founder of Meta, Facebook, and admissions made by Tristan Harris, a former lead product designer for Google, who admitted that these companies intentionally developed their applications to be addictive and manipulative, using brain hijacking technology associated with manipulative advertising technology. They actually teach this at Stanford. It's a course at Stanford University in California that people can, or students can actually take these courses in manipulative advertising technologies. And they make them addictive so that people are addicted to their screens, even at the expense of the safety. Since 2011, the rise in anxiety, depression, and self-harm, including suicides among social media users, has been double digits, especially with young females. So they're not only are they hurting their own customers and they don't care, some of these customers and or end users are actually killing themselves as a result of these addictive products. All you have to do is, don't take my word for it, watch the Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma. And then getting back, you brought up Rick, you brought up another.
That's a little bit of a stretch, to be fair. I mean,
it's not a little bit of a stretch.
Well,
just watch The Social Dilemma, and they have doctors and medical data. They have doctors with medical data that are showing.
I've seen it, but what people can do with statistics and data is they can do anything they like. Yes, has these rates of self-harm and suicide gone up amongst social media users? Of course they have, because social media use across the world has gone up exponentially. I don't think that that's quite the correlation, because the answer that's been given is
because they had almost 10 years of they had almost 10 years of social media data per user, not because there's more people. They had almost 10 years of social media data amongst online users of social media before 2011. Since 2011, it's exploded, and especially again among young adults and teens.
The documentary the mockumentary that you're talking about features a young girl who gets very depressed because she's not pretty enough. Well, I mean, young girls were depressed like that when I was growing up, when they were looking at Vogue and all those other sorts of magazines. It's just this is
but when you were done, when you put the magazine down, it left you alone. It wasn't sending you notifications 24 hours a day to check your phone. That's the problem. The end user. Listen to me real quickly. Technically, listen to me. Technically, the end user puts their device down. If you were reading that in a magazine, you felt bad, you can put it down and go have a discussion with somebody. Today, you might read that online, put that down, try and walk away from your smartphone and it starts pinging you with notifications because
No.
they realize that you're not
Sure,
online
it's-
anymore.
I'd like to say
Why?
something. I'd like to jump in because I think you're both right to a point. But look, first of all, people do not have to use social media or technology. You know, I personally took myself mostly off of Facebook. You know, I use it once in a while. But each person's choice. We're in a free society, and in many countries it's free. Not all countries, but so. You know, if they offer a product and people want to use it. Now, on the other side, is it healthy? No, I don't think so at all. You start looking at this amount of hours that people are online, you know, and in front of TVs and everything, it might be 9 hours. You know,
Right.
Is that a healthy environment for most people? No, mentally, physically, it's probably terrible, especially for kids. But on the other side, you know, I think you can't regulate that and say, don't use it, you know, let the people choose. Now, one thing we could do is inform people of the dangers, which I do see more and more articles about it. Don't let your kids watch, you know, technology more than a few hours or, you know, whatever. So, and the other side is what you've been talking about. I just want to hit that too, the privacy issues and everything. I actually like these companies, although I hate them too in many ways. You know, I mean, I hate, you know, Apple and China. I hate a lot of things, but they're also developing amazing technologies that are useful. So it's like a hammer. You can use it for good or bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, it all depends how you use it.
I want to ask you a
But
question.
let me add this. I think regulators really need to trim them around the crust, you know, the pizza. In other words, you need to say, okay, you need to report news more fairly, you know, and not
That's a
discriminate.
whole nother issue is
Well, but
the
it's a
censorship
huge issue. If they're
and
gonna
freedom of the
Everything.
press is being crushed by these companies. And we experienced this at IBM TV, Pod TV before this.
Oh, yeah,
We experienced
we're-
the
Yeah,
censorship.
because I got a quick
What's
question
the
for Peter.
people that are
I
coming
got a
on
quick
using
question for
social
Peter.
media
Really
these
quick.
days?
Let's take a commercial break.
Commercial break.
And introduce our
And
news.
I got a quick question for Peter. Now, my quick question for Peter, really quickly,
Hang on,
it
Mark.
also goes to Rick as well. Hold on, my quick question for Peter, it also goes to Rick as well because of the Wall Street Hacker. I've been watching my TV lately, and I've been seeing some very interesting commercials. There have been commercials for some very interesting products. Like, you know, there was a commercial that was for, and no, I'm not trying to buy it because I'm not trying to switch genders, even though I know Shaquille and Joe he's thinking about doing that and everything. But there have been commercials for everything from IPS kind of products to tampons, these new specialty kinds of tampons, to yes, even products around women and something that will help women poop. I forgot the name of the product, but the whole message was about
Help women poop. Is it different for women than it is for men?
And then also there was a commercial that was featuring around your care around the pubic area and all of that. So, Peter, should I be invested in these companies? Because apparently they're.
Oh my God! I was saying this can't be a question for me.
Should I be invested in these companies that are
I was
doing
going to
this
say,
kind of
so
specialty
first of all,
products?
Wall Street
And then I
Hackers.
want to know, Rick, as a media person that used to write for Jimmy Kimmel, I'm thinking, one, this is going to give you loads of material to make jokes about and everything. And two, whether your thoughts are about the proliferation of these kind of ads. Because like I said, I was just trying to
You
watch.
can-
So,
you can-
if I could answer that question,
tell.
But
tell-
believe it or not, I do like John Wayne movies. I was watching an old John Wayne movie, and I think in another case, an old Clint Eastwood movie and some Law and Order episodes and all of that. And then I'm seeing these commercials, and I'm going like, why are these commercials on at this hour and everything? So what are your thoughts? Should I invest in these companies?
okay, so a
Okay,
couple
well,
of
you
points.
can
One,
tell.
Wall Street Hackers is going to be on Thursdays at 1:00, and you know it's a continuation of an old show that we're now transforming a little bit. And Nick and I are going to be talking about the markets, number one. And right now, I would say what we have is wishful thinking by the markets about wishful thinking about the Fed. So, you know, it could go up a little more. It could always go. We could always be wrong, but I don't like it. And so we're looking for businesses that are going to do well in this market, especially dividend stocks and other income-related stocks. We love income, but once in a while, options too. but safe things that we consider safe. There's no safety in the end unless you're at a CD. But and even that's not safe.
Well, and even that's
because of
not safe,
inflation.
right?
I know.
Yeah.
So
No, but also default risk.
So
right?
the show will be on starting 1:00, and then you can catch it on all these different Roku and podcast at any time. And then, so in terms of your question, that was, one, drug stocks, my opinion is not now. I mean, right now, there's a legislation going through the Senate right now where they're talking about negotiating. And I knew this was coming for a long time, and it's probably going to keep getting worse. They're saying, well, there's going to be more negotiation between the government and drug companies. They make a lot of money off the drug companies. So you have to wait till that falls out. And in terms of these specific products, I'm not like Kramer. I can't know every company, every product. If somebody asks me about a thing, I can research it. I have my methodologies. But what we do is I search every week, sometimes 30, 40, 50 hours for one company that I like. And sometimes I can't find any, and sometimes I find one or two. I'm thrilled if I find one. But ideally, it has dividend income, it has safety, it has growth. And that's an old joke. I say it's not really that funny, but it's like all I want is growth, dividends, and income. High income. So I look at those.
Can I just say about Kramer? There's
Wall Street hackers.
Can I just say about Kramer, Peter? There's an inverse Kramer index where they did the opposite of every recommendation that Kramer had. Wow. And apparently that's actually been quite profitable. But just to come back slightly to what was said before, Mark, let me just say a lot of the users and the people that uptake technology and social media, etc., are relatively young, and we have a generation of people that we've mollycoddled. So when Peter came on and I made the comment that I'll be the face of the outfit because I'm better looking than Peter and he can be the brains, I made that comment. Now, am I better looking than Peter? I don't know. The audience will probably split on that. Who knows, right? But Peter's not going to send me an email afterwards or give me a call after the show and go, how could you possibly say that? I'm so offended. I'm really upset. Because I'm joking and I make a lot of wisecracks on the show. But if Peter was 30 years younger, I may not want to say that to him because I might be afraid he's going to get upset. Maybe I've misgendered him. I've used the wrong pronoun, etc., etc. So when people on social media...
You're discriminating against me based on age is what you're saying.
Well, I discriminate you because you're from Democrat. Because you're from Democrat.
I'm joking.
Well, I turned 59. I turned 59.
I discriminate against you, Peter, because you're in Democrat-run Connecticut, a very wealthy state that votes Democrats. So I don't like it at all on that note. But look, seriously, what we have is this generation of people that are so sensitive. I look at Meghan Markle. She looks at her own reflection and she's offended. It's ridiculous. So when people say social media is causing all these problems, maybe the participation awards are causing the problems. Maybe there's a whole heap of other social aspects that are causing the problems. I'm loath to defend tech.
So one of the things you need to understand. One of the things, Shaq, you brought up.
I had actually asked Rick the question earlier about this whole notion of it's creating lots of jokes for him and everything, but definitely there's plenty of material that's in these new ads. So, Rick, I'm turning it over to you.
Rick's in California, the whole place is a joke.
One first thing is you can tell what ails people by watching the ads on Fox, MSNBC, and CNN. This tells you what maladies people in their 50s, 60s, 70s have. Everybody has a bad stomach. A lot of people are pre-diabetic. So just modern food and just all the shit that's happening in the world makes everybody sick to their stomach.
Yeah, no, well, real quickly, I wanted to, you make a great point. I think a lot of this is dietary, and I've changed my eating habits quite a bit and lost a lot of weight over the last few years. And I feel much better and I take less medication, and that's just my own personal experience, with these things. But what I wanted to get back to was something Shaq was alluding to about why people are very self-conscious or offended by everything. What's also built into these algorithms on these social media platforms are the ability for these companies to divide and pit their end users against each other. Part of the notifications on this are to notify people of viewpoints that are going to actually be somewhat offensive to someone and they'll get a notification on that, go back in, and then they get embroiled and they're spending much more time. They're not doing it necessarily to make everybody divided and mad. They do it because it eats up more screen time and they can advertise to these people more. Again, they don't care if they're harming people. This was something that was revealed by Tristan Harris in the Social Dilemma as well. One of the other things that they're doing with the data, and it's being used politically, this was the problem with Facebook Cambridge Analytica. I was an advisor for the Senate Judiciary Committee, 2 members, Senator Blumenthal, as well as Ted Cruz, who were on the committee during the Facebook Cambridge Analytica hearings. And again, I come from the industry. I work within the app and platform development industry, so I'm giving these guys some inside baseball on how these apps work. And one of the really malicious things that app and platform developers do once they have your personal information and your business information is they can put you into 5 or 6 personality buckets so that they can create 5 or 6 targeted ads for that. But what they're actually doing is they take your personal information, they apply predictive analytics, and they apply AI and predictive analytics and manipulative advertising technology to your personal information to put you into these 5 buckets, and then custom develop micro-targeted ads to manipulate you. Now, you may think this is okay if you're buying a hamburger or a set of shoes, but when you start using it for politics, it becomes very much more nefarious as well. And Trump and actually Ted Cruz was one of the customers for Cambridge Analytica. It's happening.
Don't pick on Trump. So too with the
no.
Democrats.
It's happening with Biden. Biden
Okay,
hired
Biden. What was the reason for naming Trump? What was the reason for naming him? All politicians.
Because that's Cambridge Analytica. Ted Cruz is definitely that's the truth.
And he mentioned Ted Cruz being somebody that he worked with, so he did say that he worked with Ted Cruz as well. Ted Cruz is
also
Mike, don't jump to his defense. He can defend himself.
Biden also hired an advertising agency that does the same thing.
And I just pointed out that the Democrat leaders have done the same thing.
No, and there's no doubt the Democratic
let me just say something to you, Rex. You said before about the tech companies sort of trying to cause arguments amongst their users. Okay. I know almost everyone that are on IBM TV off air. We talk and we communicate stuff. There is nobody that agrees 100% with the things that I say. And there are some people that vehemently disagree with the things that I say, and I vehemently disagree with them. That doesn't cause an argument. And even for people that even for people that I follow, that I like, there's a guy called Isaac Butterfield. He's generally a right-wing, anti-cancel culture kind of person. He actually put up a post recently that was an anti-greyhound racing post. I didn't like that, clearly, because I'm one of the biggest greyhound owners in Australia. I didn't like that post. I didn't like what he said. I thought he was well out of order. Now, I considered unsubscribing from him. I didn't, but I considered it. Then I thought I might send this guy an email and say, hey, listen, we should talk. And then I thought, you know what, who gives a shit? He's just a person on the internet with an opinion. Who cares, right? Maybe, as I said before, maybe what we should be doing is teaching our younger people to get a backbone and to realize that there's many, many more trials and tribulations that are going to go through in their life than a couple of mean comments on the internet.
No, I get that. It's not the mean comments on the internet that are the issue. It's the technology of the notifications and the emojis and the other brain hijacking technologies associated with manipulative advertising technologies. Brain hijacking is a real thing. It's the thumbs up. It's the notifications that follow you when you're done. When you shut your computer off or you put your smartphone down, you should be able to walk away from it when you're not on the platform. But the platforms are reaching out beyond your use to constantly stay on top of you to check back in and see what your notifications are, and then you get rebroiled into this, and it's eating up a lot more time.
I've only just recently downloaded LinkedIn.
We've got a question.
Go, Rick.
I love the idea of educating people about the risks of the whole cyber world. When I was in 6th grade, we spent a couple weeks like being taught about how advertising works, the different approaches, the different pitches. And we kind of knew some of this, especially if you read Mad Magazine. as a kid, but it was helpful to understand how you're being manipulated. The show Westworld on HBO
Awesome.
is about the war between humans and AI in the near future. And last season, some guerrilla warriors released everybody's bucket, everybody's detailed profile held by these giant corporations. And it was so enraging and depressing what the corporations knew about people that everybody went crazy and rioted around the world, and it caused the end of civilization.
That was great. I love their use of this. Their use of that in Westworld was totally relevant and justifiable. I thought that was it's one of my favorite shows.
Peter, I got another
Edward Snowden told everybody what they had on you, and nobody rioted about it. But I just want to come back to Rex. I downloaded LinkedIn, which I've been reluctant to do, but I put it on my phone because it was too inconvenient when I was traveling to have it on my computer. I had a couple of notifications, looked at it, put my phone down, and immediately I got 20 notifications. So I looked at it, and the notifications were shit. So you know what happens? Now, doesn't matter how many notifications I've got, I don't look at LinkedIn until I'm ready to look at LinkedIn. I look at it, once a day, maybe once a day. So I don't really use that site very often. So it's a bit like the ball that
it's turned into Facebook, by the way.
It's a bit like the boy that cried wolf. Facebook's the same. All of the social media things that I'm on are all the same. They can give me 100 notifications.
But you're mature enough to understand that. You're not a 13-year-old girl.
I'm going to turn notification sounds off on my phone so that I can't hear them. So yeah, you're right. I'm mature enough to know how to do that.
But
just like parents ignore their kids when they go mum, 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 or dad, 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 dad. They ignore their kids because they know it's not that important, right? If maybe we taught our young people how to handle something as simple as social media, we wouldn't have to stress too much about what social media is doing. And I say that when I agree with you. Social media.
No, Shaquille, we don't want too many people. We don't want too many people doing what you're doing, which is turn off the notifications. Because as Nick will say, is because of my kind of like taking over LinkedIn and everything is the reason that the network is so popular, and that we've had certain people that kind of like jumped into the network, including now folks that are having their own shows, like Evan, who was one of those people that was complaining and everything. Am I not right, Nick, that if everybody did what Shaquille said, we would have a problem?
I have a real problem with Shaquille in general, but when you add up the fact that he's trying, and Rex is trying to not allow us to get in and to manipulate and grab people's data. I mean, that's what our network is all about. We want to go in, grab your data, and then.
But people should have the ability. People should have the ability to opt in.
I don't even know why Mark's surprised, right? I'm a former insurance guy, former stockbroker that went into finance, became an investment banker, ran a hedge fund. I vehemently talk against the insurance industry, the finance industry, banks, the Central Reserve, all Central Reserve banks. I vehemently protest against the industries that I love the most, that I'm in the most.
Are you somewhat of an anarchist?
Most critical of political parties of which I'm a member. So I'm not sure why Mark's surprised that I would pick on anything that I'm actually part of.
Well, like I said, I'm just having a little bit of fun here and everything. But I do have to ask one other question, and Kim's going to love this one, because I figured out another stock that we need to invest in. Because every time I turn on the TV, the one thing that I'm seeing is targeted dating apps. Like I said, because it seems like there's a dating app for every target group out there, because I saw one for like 50 plus. I saw one for 50 plus that were affluent. I saw one for like, folks that are African American. I saw one for this or that. So I'm thinking that might be the next thing. Do I need to invest in eHarmony or Our Times or whatever that thing is? That's the one that's for older folks and everything.
Sorry,
I'm thinking
a couple of points about
are
that.
the next ones that I need to go for.
A couple of points about that. One, a lot of the same
targets people to me because I'm still single after all these years.
Mark, a couple of points. That would have been a great investment for sure years ago, Match or anything like that. But also, a lot of these apps are owned by the same companies now.
Yeah.
So it's just like we were talking about that other phenomenon.
Also,
I say, oh, I'm in this app, and it's really just a sub part of another company. So, I think I'd have to look at a particular company because every company has to be analyzed by cash flows and everything, dividends and whatever else they're doing. But that's not news. Again, 10 years ago, we could have all been multimillionaires with a few dollars on those, but that boat has sailed. I think the next real boat to find, and I haven't found it yet, but is the metaverse.
Yes.
And that may wipe out some of this, by the way, because everybody's on social media because it's fun and everything. But all of a sudden, maybe you're in your house and you have TV screens all around you, sort of like a holodeck, and that will immerse people even more in a way, but it'll be different technology. Which
You bring up a good point, and I like the metaverse. We've got a metaverse show. Nicole will talk about the metaverse tomorrow. But my question with the metaverse is, if everybody has a metaverse, how am I going to invest in the metaverse? Because that's my issue with the metaverse. Because it seems like everybody, and maybe
well, again, a lot of them,
everybody can have a metaverse.
People on Wall Street, you have to go company by company, which is what in the end. I like to look at the overview of the market. And as I said about Wall Street hackers, but also you have to really dig into a company. Every time you're buying a stock, you're buying a business. So you can't say generally I'm going to, get the drug companies that are advertising for females, like you said, or a Match or whatever else. You have to look at each company and break it out, because if you were buying a business, you would spend maybe 3 months analyzing that one business. How does it work? Do I want to be in this business? What's the industry? What's the cash flows? So it takes a lot of work, and you have to look company by company. In the end, every dollar that goes in, you have to analyze: is this a business I want to be in?
I think that's a really good point, Peter. That's what Warren Buffett advocated for, right? You don't just buy shares; you pretend you're buying the whole company and you analyze it that way.
There's a huge investment opportunity that's about 10 years out. In the 2030s, there's going to be a medical revolution that will make 80 the new 50. They're going to start figuring out more and more about how to, fix
longevity.
Yes, and because nothing is more valuable than buying more years of life.
Oh yeah,
quality life.
But
quality,
it's not
quality
here yet. But in the 2030s, there will be tech that will make somebody who's 80 able to look and feel as if they're 50, and people will spend trillions of bucks.
Yeah,
so what you're telling me is that when I get to 45,
there's all kind of things that are happening now in that field.
Yeah,
what you're telling me is when I get to 45 or 50, and I think, oh, thank goodness, I'm at half my life expectancy. All of a sudden, I'm going to be told that I'm only a third through my life expectancy. I'm going to start with another 80 years of this shit.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Right.
Well, I turned 50. I turned 59 on Thursday.
That's all. We're going to be competing for the same women.
Think how bad it is for us.
As long as the answer isn't, I've got to pay more taxes, become a vegan, as long as that's not the answer to longevity, okay, I'll sign up.
You'll become a Democrat. Okay.
No. Come on, that's a step too far. It's a step too. I'm not coming to America. I'll stay
Rick,
here.
that has really interesting demographic, implications and financial implications. What you say, because people start living longer. A lot of people have retired at age 65, thinking they're going to 85. Which is around the average. So all of a sudden, people. What if people are like, okay, I want to retire at 60, but now I'm living to 120. It's hard enough to plan for retirement for 20 years. What if you're planning for retirement for 40 years or 60 years? It's not going to work too well for a lot of people.
Peter, you and I discussed that Social Security unfunded liability and Medicare unfunded liability, $170 trillion. I mean, what's this going to do to the world economy?
Yeah,
Peter, as we're winding it down, I figured out what is the best product for us to get. We're going to get a product that will be a pill that will turn Shaquille into a Democrat. That's it.
I got a notification.
Mark, nobody will invest in that. The Democrats don't want me. We've already established that. When I come to America, I'll have to wait till the next president comes in.
You can join the Forward Party.
I got a notification from YouTube. They say if you let Rex talk, we're going to pull your network off the air. Okay.
It's okay. Rex is going to sort it.
That came from that came from Google.
They're watching.
Yeah, they'll pull us off the air. So anyway, yeah. And speaking of off the air, since we're at the hour, we're off the air. So I want to thank our special guest, Rex Lee, with Tech Talk coming up, and of course,
with
the Wall Street
hackers
coming up, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the media with new shows. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.